Well, I really want to acknowledge our Gulkula hosts and elders, and particularly the Gulkula School and Homelands teachers, from whom I've learnt so much over the years, and also Amala Eunice and her sisters, who are the traditional healers. Thank you so much for all that you've done, and I acknowledge the traditional healing system that you continue, and also the wonderful work of Miwach. And I acknowledge John Morgan, whose leadership has been especially important in ensuring that the partnership with the dentistry school has worked out to deliver such good benefits. So thank you, John, and thank you very much to all your team and your board members. And if I could just say a few things about Kaya and Lawrence's presentation from the engineering school. You may have said this, but it was raining, so I couldn't quite hear. But when they talk about the stone houses and the eel ponds, I just want to give you a sense of the antiquity of that system. So archaeologists have dated one of the stone houses to 6,500 years before the present. So these are ancient stone villages, villages of stone houses, and we may not have all the evidence, and those villages may be even older. And likewise with the eel channels and ponds. So Budge Bim, the volcano, exploded 30,000 years ago, and after that the Gunditjmara engineered all 22 kilometres of eel channels. It is the largest aquaculture system anywhere in the world, engineered by the Gunditjmara people. And about a month ago, when were we going off our heads about it? NAIDOC Week. In NAIDOC Week this year, the Budge Bim Heritage Landscape was designated a World Heritage Area by UNESCO at the meeting in Europe, and it was the first World Heritage Area ever nominated by the Indigenous owners. And so the Gunditjmara people have built the largest aquaculture system in the world ever, and also are the first Indigenous people to nominate successfully this massive cultural heritage landscape for World Heritage listing. So that, you know, should be a matter of great pride to all Australians. And so it is, I think, just one example of the extraordinary knowledge that Indigenous Australians have. And I know from my own experience, having known Eunice for a long time and other people in the community, that Aboriginal medicinal knowledge and healing knowledge is profound. Their understanding of what constitutes well-being is profound, and that system of knowledge is tremendously important for the modern medicine that Miwach can bring to the people to overcome the terrible health problems caused here by the newcomers who arrived in the but the Macassans came first, but as you know from Jawa, there was a very good relationship. But the people who came afterwards were not good. And they would, well, you know, people don't want to talk about it. There were terrible incidents. And, you know, the whole imposition has had a dreadful impact on health. And so I hope that our medical students and dentistry students, health science students get a better opportunity to work with Miwach and learn not just about working collaboratively in a very different environment, a culturally rich environment, learning how to relate to Yolngu culture, but also to learn about Indigenous knowledge of health, Indigenous knowledge of well-being. And so, mindful of all these Indigenous knowledge systems, of which I've learnt so much from my Yolngu teachers, what I did when I was given the opportunity to develop the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander curriculum project was focus on Indigenous knowledge. So there's a website on the University of Melbourne website. It's simply called Indigenous Knowledge at the moment. So it's indigenousknowledge.research at unimelb.edu.au. And this is very easy to use. And on this website are 42 curriculum resources developed for all school children in Australia from grades 3 to 10 in all of the learning areas, English, mathematics, science, humanities and social sciences, technologies, physical and education, health and physical education, the arts and so on, all according to the Australian curriculum framework, which teachers know about. And the resources are developed under 3 themes: astronomy, fire and water. And the reason why I did this in this way was because of the difficulty that teachers have had in implementing the integral and compulsory part of the Australian curriculum, the cross-curriculum priority, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures. Very few schools, very few schools teach that cross-curriculum priority. They will teach the other 2, but they will not teach this one, by and large. And they say, it's too difficult, I'm afraid, I don't know where to find the resources. If I do find the resources, I don't know whether the Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander community will approve of them. I'd rather have an Aboriginal teacher in my classroom. Why don't you employ one? Oh, that's too difficult. And, you know, so on. Now, many of these fears and complaints are legitimate and many are not. So what I've done is deal with the ones that I can deal with. Fear is very difficult to deal with, but if I can alleviate teachers of some of their fears, then I hope this project has done it. So one thing Australians clearly find confronting is what our Vice-Chancellor mentioned, and that is the cult of forgetfulness about the horrors inflicted on Aboriginal people, and most teachers simply will not teach the history of Australia. The truth, they will not teach it. Although I did meet a teacher today who's from Trinity Grammar in Kew in Melbourne, where all the episodes of First Australians are shown, I think, to grade 9 students. That's very rare. So I stepped around the problem of the inability of Australians to confront their history, and I dealt with 3 universal themes: the astronomy, the Indigenous knowledge systems of astronomy. Everyone sees the same sky. Indigenous knowledge systems of fire. We all have much the same experiences of fire. And water. Water is also universal. Now, most people don't know that there are, across the country, to one extent or another, profound Indigenous knowledge systems about these 3 universal phenomena. So I gathered together about 30 people, astronomers, both of the general scientific kind, Indigenous astronomers, ethnomusicologists, historians, environmental scientists, geographers, ethnomusicologists, musicians, teachers, curriculum writers, including Bruce Pascoe, Bill Gamage, and many other names that you would recognise. And we developed these 42 resources, and you can search the website very easily. It's my understanding from talking to teachers and from emailing teachers who have implemented these resources already in their classrooms that you can take these resources and very easily turn them into a class plan. I want every Australian child to learn about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures. I want every Australian child to learn about Indigenous knowledge. And I want them to know the truth about our country. And I don't want them to grow up like the Australians of my generation, denying that these things exist. So in honour of the Yolngu, from whom I've learnt so much, I just want to point out that one of the resources that I developed, well, I didn't actually, Melinda Sawyer, wife of Professor Aaron Corn, many people know him here. She's a music teacher, and she's done an enormous body of work on Indigenous music, but we did work together on this. So there's a one of the resources is called Fire in Song, and we use the Yolngu cultural knowledge of fire. Fire, the word for fire here is gurtha. And we've taken text from the Bukulangay Mulka Arts Centre and developed classroom activities, shown how this resource relates to the achievement standard year level for the sake of teachers developing their class plans. We've developed activities, and so, for instance, the songs that we use are Baru by Yothi Yindi, Baru by the Saltwater Band, Gurtha by Dapambal Yunapingu, and Waru by the Warumpi Band. And then the activities require the teachers to ask of students to for instance, build their knowledge of the Yolngu people, where they are from, their basic societal structures, and their fire narrative from the background information presented here, and from suitable websites such as the Deemaroo Aboriginal Corporation website. Discuss their findings, ask questions, and then explore these musical examples that I've just listed, and then they go into the musical side of it by exploring timing. So they'll need a computer, speakers to play the sounds track, and students can either discuss answers verbally or type them up on their own device. So they are asked to look at verse 1 chorus, verse 2 chorus, Manakay 1, Manakay 2, the pitch, to look at the pitch. The key is B minor, and the song uses the chords B, M, A, E, M, G in a repeating pattern. There is a melodic riff consisting of pairs of short notes in a descending pattern that occurs throughout the song. The verse melody mainly moves by step, and the chorus, copying the riff, has a downward leap of a third as its main feature. So this can be used by music teachers, and it's freely available to all teachers to use now, and I would really appreciate emails back about how you implement it in the classroom, what else you need, if you have any problems with what I've done, can we provide more information, what sort of more information could we provide. And in the meantime, while you're implementing approved Indigenous knowledge resources to be implemented in the classroom, I will be trying to raise money to develop more, to test them in the classroom, to document their effectiveness. And I'd just like to point out that the Australian curriculum framework is about 20 years old, and in that time there has never been a concerted effort to implement the cross-curriculum priority. People are more genius at ducking and weaving the problem than they are at finding out how to implement the cross-curriculum priority. My site, developed with all my colleagues, makes it possible to do it right now, and I want to start a wave of teachers and parents saying this can be done, let's do it right now. And also I should declare an interest because I'm probably on the spectrum and I'm very committed to this. I have a book coming out in September. It's called Welcome to Country, an Introduction to Indigenous Studies for upper secondary students, with quite a few examples from these resources from other disciplines that I've become familiar with, and the book will be available, and it will also have online initially more resources, and hopefully I'll be able to publish those resources as well. So stick with me, we'll get this done.